Hello and welcome to week 5, lesson 1. We are going to take a look at equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign. By the end of the lesson, I'm hoping that you'll be able to solve equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign. And you'll also be able to identify equations with no solutions, infinite solutions, or one solution. So let's take a look at our first example. So we have 6x minus 23 equals 16 minus 7x. And the first thing that should pop out, probably no surprise here, is that you have an x on the left and you also have an x on the right. So what do we do in that situation? Well, one thing I want to note is you want to combine your variables first. Now, when I say combine, I mean, in this case, get them together. So I want to move the 6x over to the right-hand side, or I want to move this negative 7x over to the left-hand side. I want to get those together first. Now, here's a little hint for you. I like to move the smaller of the two. It will help keep things positive. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I've got positive 6x and I've got negative 7x. Negative 7 is the smaller number. So I'm going to move that to the other side. I want to move that whole thing over. So I'm going to add it to both sides. So I'm adding 7x to both sides. And what that does, negative 7x plus 7x makes 0 x's on the right. 6x plus 7x gives me 13x. And then I still have the minus 23 equals 16. Now you should have a two-step, maybe a multi-step, but a two-step equation that should be pretty easy to solve by now. So I'm going to add 23 to both sides, get 13x equals 39, and then I'm going to divide by 13 to get x by itself, and I get x equals 3. And just like with other equations, if we want to check our work, we can take 3 and plug it back in for x on both sides and see if the two sides remain equal. Example 2, a little bit more involved because you've got some distributive property going on here. So 10 minus 8x, can't really do anything there, equals 2 times 5, which is 10, and 2 times negative 4x, which is negative 8x. So I gave you the hint of moving the smaller number. Well, what happens if they're equal? Then you just pick. So I'm going to move the negative 8x, doesn't really matter which one, to the other side by adding 8x to both sides. Well, on the left-hand side, negative 8x plus 8x makes 0 x's on the left side, so I'm left with 10. On the right-hand side, negative 8x plus 8x is also 0x. I have no x's left in this problem. What do I do? How can I solve for x if I don't have any x's? Well, look what I have left. I have 10 equals 10. That's a true statement. When the variables cancel like that on both sides, when you have no variables left, you could get infinite solutions. There's another thing you could get. We'll talk about that next, but let's talk about infinite solutions. That means that no matter what I put in for x in the original equation, the left side will equal the right side. Okay, and you could try that. Throw 2 in, see what happens. Throw 0 in, see what happens. The left side will equal the right side. All right, when that happens, we have what we call an identity. Now, if you look back here at the first step in blue, I have 10 minus 8x equals 10 minus 8x. Those are identical. I could have stopped there if I noticed that. If the left side and the right side are identical, I have an identity, which means I have infinitely many solutions. Well, I said that's one possibility. What happens? What's the other possibility, I guess? So let's try this one. Let's distribute the 2. So 6m minus 5 equals 2 times 3m is 6m, and 2 times 7 is 14. I'm going to subtract 6m from both sides. And what happens? Well, 6m minus 6m is 0m. So all I have left on the left-hand side is negative 5. 6m minus 6m is 0m. All I have left on the right-hand side is 14. Those two numbers are not equal. In the previous slide, they were. If those two are not equal, that means I have no solutions. And that means no value of x will make the equation true. I can try as many times as I want. The left side will never equal the right side. So let's recap real quick. When you have equations, there are 3 possibilities for the number of solutions. With linear equations, I should specify here. You could have one solution. That's what we typically have, where you get a value for x. All right. You could also have a time when the variables cancel. and you get infinite solutions. And the way you can tell that is if the remaining numbers are equal. Or you could get no solutions, and that's when the remaining numbers are not equal. And that concludes today's lesson, and we'll move on to literal equations next.